thank you all for coming out. It's a great crowd, and I'm humble enough to know you're here because of David Lynche and not because of me, but I will nonetheless tell you who I am. My name is David Bushman. I'm here from New York. I am an author of 5 books, and 3 of which are about Twin Peaks in one way or another. I'm also a publisher. We've published a bunch of books on David Lynche. And I worked at the Museum of TV and Radio in New York for many years, and we did some stuff with Twin Peaks then. And I was a TV editor at Variety at the time that Twin Peaks was first coming to television. So that's my connection to David Lynche. I am doing 2 lectures. The first one is this one on David Lynche called Lynchian. And the second one is on Twin Peaks, which was really my entry point. So I had to come up with the topics myself, and I decided, so I was thinking about it, and thinking about Twin Peaks was natural because I do have a background in TV, and it was my entry into David Lynche. But the other one, I was kind of thinking, what should I do? And you know, everyone's always, even the interviews I've done here, everyone's always saying, well, what is Lynchian? What is Lynchian? And it's actually in the dictionary now in the English Oxford Dictionary, so it exists. I guess it's an official sign of approval. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to talk about here. What does Lynchian mean? And you know, this is not in any way a definitive explanation, but it's the explanation that I accept or makes the most sense to me. I hope you like my multicolor slideshow presentation here that I spent hours on. And it's all the background is David Lynche artwork, paintings, most of it anyway. So, okay, so I'll start here, and at the end, because there's no way I'm speaking for 90 minutes, or even could tolerate the idea of hearing myself speak for 90 minutes, I will have questions and answers. So think about what you want to know, and hopefully I will have answers for you. Okay, so here we go. I don't know how that happened. Did I do that? But anyway, okay, so in 1997, David Lynche appeared on the Charlie Rose Conversations, which was a TV show on public TV in America. And Lynche and Charlie Rose actually asked him, what do people mean when they say Lynchian? And this is David Lynche back at that time. And it should come as no surprise that, of course, David Lynche didn't answer that question. He said that this was the question from Rose, and here's Lynche's response. I haven't got a clue. I think when you're inside of it, you can't see it, so I don't know. Which is pretty typical Lynche. Why solve the mystery? You know, life doesn't make sense. Why should film? Life is a mystery. Why shouldn't film be that way? And also, you know, he's of the opinion that once he makes a film and puts it out there, that it doesn't really matter what he thinks it means, because what it means to you is more important to you. And that once the filmmaker makes a film, he's just another interpreter of it in the same way that you are. So we all bring different, experiences in life to any piece of art that we consume. So what it means to you will be different than what it means to me and what it means to David Lynche and so on. And he doesn't want to enforce his opinion of that on us, which I should say is interesting. It's, as a former curator, it's kind of a pain in the neck because you sort of want to look for thematic preoccupations and consistencies and tropes that in a auteur's work that you can sort of say, well, this is what David Lynche is about, but that's just the way it is with him. And also, I'll tell you quickly a story. I did a book on Mark Frost, who was David Lynche's, Mark Frost would probably kill me if I told this story, if you knew I was telling the story, but who was David Lynche's collaborator on Twin Peaks. And there was a scene that, so David Lynche is, in this last reboot for Showtime, Lynche and Frost wrote the script together, and then Mark Frost went off. The understanding was always that David Lynche would direct all 18 parts, which is what they called it, and Mark Frost, who prefers writing novels, would go off in a room somewhere by himself and write 2 novels about Twin Peaks. Well, anyway, Frost goes to the set. Lynch is famous for kind of improvising on set, so he'll have a script and then he'll just like kind of throw it out if he doesn't like it. So he was doing something to the script, and Frost happened to be on set that day watching it, and Frost said something like, well, why are you doing that? Like, I think it was the scene, if you know the reboot of Twin Peaks, in the where there's a scene in the diner where there's a car accident and Bobby Briggs is there, and he goes out into the car and there's a woman there with her child, and it made no sense to Mark Frost. He couldn't figure out what it was, and Frost said to him, you know, like, well, why? What does this mean? Like, what are you doing? And why don't you just do it the way we wrote it, where, you know, people will be able to follow it? And Lynch said to him, you know, my fans or my viewers expect me to be mysterious. And so I think he's playing a little bit up to his image. So Frost said to him, well, you know, that's all interesting, but don't they also expect to be able to understand what you're doing and or what's happening? And Lynch said to him something like, aren't you precious? Which Mark did not appreciate. But so my point being that I think that he's aware of his reputation and he kind of likes it, and he sort of tries to leverage it. So there's a self-consciousness to Lynchian. Okay. I just said it's in the Oxford English Dictionary. I added the word in 2018. It describes it as characteristic, reminiscent, or imitative of the films or television work of David Lynch, which is a really dumb definition. Okay, so if you look it up, you will see that it's also defined as Lynch is noted for juxtaposing surreal or sinister elements with mundane, everyday environments, and for using compelling visual images to emphasize a dreamlike quality of mystery or menace, and we will get much more into this as we go on. The earliest evidence of the term, use of the term, defined was in 1984 in the Cinefantastique, where they were writing about Eraserhead, and they said that Eraserhead was likely to remain the most specific, purely Eraserhead was his first film. Well, it was 5 years ago with no budget. There was no major studio involvement. Nobody telling him you can't do this or you can't do that. So it's considered probably his most personal film. And let's see. Okay. Here's I'm going to show you some clips, and this is probably the most famous scene from Eraserhead. It's to give you some context, the main character Henry, who's played by Jack Nance, who later in Twin Peaks plays Pete Martell. He's in a bunch of different Lynch films, and actually he is deceased. He was actually killed, I think, in a fight outside like a donut shop. And there's actually a documentary on him on YouTube that I think you can find. A really, really interesting guy. He's invited to his girlfriend's home for dinner. And in a Lynchian way, it's not a very typical dinner. Like if you've ever been invited to your spouse's or mate's dinner, home for dinner, I think you could say it's not going to be anything like this. So let me see if I can, whoops. I'm going to have to cut and paste it. Which I need some help with. Yeah, I don't know how to do this on this computer. Anyway, so it's not hyperlinking to it, so I was going to cut and paste it.
girls have heard this before. 14 years ago, I had an operation on my arm here. The doctor said I wouldn't be able to use it. Well, what the hell do they know, I said. And I rubbed it for a half hour every day. And then I got so I could move it a little. And I got so I could turn a faucet. And pretty soon I had my arm back again. Now I can't feel a damn thing. All numb. I'm afraid to cut it, you know? Mary usually does the carving, but maybe tonight you do it, Henry. All right with you? Of course. I'd be happy to. So I just cut them up like regular chickens? Sure, just cut them up like regular chickens.
So I don't know about you, but I probably would have ended my relationship with her. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, there's definitely more clips coming. Okay, so. We're gonna deconstruct what's Lynchian about that particular scene in a moment here. So we're gonna go back to some clips because Eraserhead in every way, in terms of inscrutability, in terms of aesthetic, in terms of mood, in terms of pacing, was very similar to a lot of the shorts that he had made while he was a student. Eraserhead was his first full-length film, but he had made shorts that were very similar in tone and appearance and mood. It's my own computer, but so here we are again, and I don't think I know how you did this. So I'm sorry to make you keep running back and forth, but
that's what I'm here for.
These are, I'm sorry, these are, this one is, there's just a whole collection of shorts by Lynch, but I'm just going to show one or two, just so you see what he was up to before he actually started making long films. (1967). Thank you. we'll talk about soon too. But I'm going to stop it there. Okay, so I just need to go back. I can't. This just needs to be put. All right. This is the right one. Thank you. Okay, thanks. So I don't know if you here in this country have heard of David Foster Wallace. He was a really brilliant writer, American, who won the Pulitzer Prize, or either won the Pulitzer Prize or was a finalist for, he was a novelist, and his most famous book is Infinite Jest, which is about 50,000 pages long and rather impossible to understand, but a brilliant writer, and very sadly he committed suicide at a very young age, but he did a piece about David Lynche titled David Lynche Keeps His Head, in which he addressed this very issue of Lynchian, and to him he said, like the terms postmodern or pornographic, Lynchian is one of those Potter Stewart type words that's ultimately definable only ostensibly. That is, you know it when you see it. Wallace said an academic definition of Lynchian might be that the term refers to a particular kind of irony where the very macabre and the very mundane combine in such a way as to reveal the former's perpetual containment within the latter, which is a okay, so that may be a little difficult to follow, but this is a better, even easier. He actually gives you an example. He says that regular domestic murder is not Lynchian. However, if the police come to the scene and see the man standing over the body and the woman, let's see, the woman's 50s bouffant is undisturbed, and the man and the cops have a conversation about the fact that the man killed the woman because she persistently refused to buy, say, for instance, Jiffy peanut butter rather than Skippy, and how very, very important that is. And if the cops found themselves somehow agreeing that there were major differences between the brands, and that a wife who didn't recognize those differences was deficient in her wifely duties, that would be Lynchian. So that's the difference. This weird confluence of very dark, surreal, violent stuff, and absolute, almost Norman Rockwell, banal American stuff. Okay. This really has to do with what I think is the key to the term Lynchian. So Freud said, uncanny is in reality nothing new or alien, but something which is familiar and old, established in the mind, and which has become alienated from it only through the process of repression. Well, this uncanniness creates a sense of uncertainty over whether knowing what we are seeing is real and imaginary. So what, to me, so in Lynchian's films, you see mundane, see that word again, everyday people and things you think you recognize, but yet Lynch renders them unsettling, frightening. We see something that is familiar in an indefinable way. Okay, in the following scene, unfortunately we're doing another clip here. Note how sparse the lighting is here. Note the mid-century production design, and note the mid-century cinematography with production design, and how that creates an uncanny feel. Yes. So I don't know what Czech TV is like, but in America we have sitcoms, situation comedies, and they're very usually so Seinfeld or Friends. Again, the common reference points here, I'm not sure what they are, but sitcoms are basically something that we all, they're made for us to laugh, feel comfortable watching. Maybe we've had a long day at work and we just want to laugh, and they're not supposed to be threatening in any way, or they're very familiar to us. It's a genre that in American television goes back to even the days of radio, and yet here's here's David Lynch's version of a sitcom. He takes this very familiar and old and established genre and form that is really about familiarity and comfort and laughter, and he turns it into this.
I'm going to find out one day. When will you tell it?
Who could have known?
What time is it?
We've got the canned laughter that is common. So Inland Empire, a movie I have seen at least 10 times and have no idea what it's about. So if you do, catch me afterward and tell me, but I'm cool with that because I don't feel like I have to know what it's about. I like kind of wondering and trying to figure it out, and then like saying in the end, like, I just don't have to know. It's just really provocative and fascinating. I certainly don't know what people like Naomi Watts walking around with rabbit heads and getting laughs for things that are not funny. I have no idea what that means at all, but like I said, that's okay with me. All right, so Louis Bond, who writes for cinematography, so I want to point out, like, not only is it familiar in some way to us, presented in an unfamiliar way, but you'll note also as we go through these that to the people in that universe, in these clips, there's nothing unusual going on. They think it's perfectly normal. So that's a key part also of what Lynch does. We're sitting there going like, what the hell is happening? And everyone we're looking at is not thinking that, this is like perfectly normal. So, but this uncertainty about things, or this discombobulation, or I don't know how many of you know the show The Twilight Zone, but it used to also really do that. It would have canted angles and things like that to present things that were familiar in unfamiliar ways. Doppelgangers, which are a big thing in Twin Peaks, is another example. You see your best friend, or somebody looks exactly like your best friend or your spouse or your child and acts in a way that's completely different from what you expect. You're on the one hand, you're uncertain, you're worried, you're confused, and it creates this sense of fear, which is what Lynch basically is so good at doing. Okay, so this guy, Louis Bond, said that to be Lynchian is to exude elusiveness, and the enigma of what signifies Lynchian sensibility lies in producing unfamiliarity in that which was once familiar. So you're seeing the same theme coming up in different interpretations of what it means. Nestled between safety and danger is something we can't decipher, uncertainty. Freud called this the uncanny. and it's the region or horror Lynch is most associated with. And I should say also that Lynch tells the story about how his father, who worked for the U.S. Forestry Department, they were living in the Pacific Northwest, and Lynch would see these beautiful, beautiful trees, and he would go close up, and they would be like infested with ants and all kinds of bugs. So you see, on the one hand, there's this beauty, and on the other hand, there's this sort of corruption or ugliness, and that's also a very important part of the concept of Lynchian. Okay, as Bond points out, someone smiling shouldn't denote fear, but what if that smile is ambiguous? We don't know the context, we don't know what it means. It's just a smile, so we should be happy to see it, but instead it turns out to be scary. And this is a clip from Mulholland Drive, which if those of you who've seen it will remember this one, I'm sure. Where's my friend? Don't go far away.
This should be probably working, though.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's what I'm here for.
This is an elderly couple who, the Naomi Watts character, had just met on the plane. They were very nice to her. They get to the airport in LA, they part ways. She goes to where she's going, and then they show this couple who so far we've been depicted as nothing but friendly, warm, welcoming people, and now we see them like this. So it always makes me feel better when I'm not the only ignorant person in the room. So anyway, is that good? It's still not moving though. Jesus. How'd you get there?
I just clicked on it. Oh, I don't know which slide you need. Which one was it? Bond, did you? This one? No.
No, not that far. That was it, the Mulholland. Okay, so you see that, what does that smile mean? We don't know, but somehow it's unnerving. Okay, so Bond went on to say that Lynch's films make us uneasy because we don't have enough context to understand what we're seeing. We only know that we are living in a misshapen reality, which I think is a very good way of explaining it, a world different from our own. Where anything can happen and seem perfectly normal to the people who exist within this world. Absurd behavior is never questioned by the inhabitants of Lynch's worlds. And again, this is the famous Lynch quote, "I don't know why people expect art to make sense when they accept the fact that life doesn't make sense," which is kind of hard to argue with, actually. Okay. This is a 3-minute reel of David Lynch's most bizarre moments. And this was posted on Indie World.
got a clown they call the Sandman, tiptoes through my room every night, and just to sprinkle stardust and to whisper, go to sleep, everything is alright. I close my eyes, then I drift away into the magic night. I softly say,
by noting the smooth looking cat's body, you receive your antidote.
my dreamers do. Then I fall asleep to dream my dreams of you. In dreams I walk with you. In dreams I talk to you. In dreams you're I can't help it if I try. I regret that you said goodbye.
Okay, so now how does Lynch create this sense of the uncanny? These are some of the techniques that he uses: nonlinear, illogical narrative, multivalence of symbolism, the opacity of the characters' faces, odd, ponderous dialogue, use of grotesques as figurants, and the precise painterly staging of scenes. Those are some of the techniques that he uses. He also uses lush voyeuristic depictions of violence and deviance and abnormally languorous pacing. There's a really, I would say, unfortunate clip of Lynch on the internet screaming at somebody because they're telling him that one of his scenes is too long. So Lynch has a dark side to him too, but he's definitely not a member of the Lynch cult, although I do tremendously admire him as an artist. Performances are crucial to Lynch's evocation of the uncanny. He often encourages heightened soap opera-like performances from his actors. So he even says that there was a time in his life where he was addicted to soap operas, very early on when he was first starting out. Okay, so this is a clip from Wild at Heart. So you're watching here the performance.
Bobby just rolled into town a couple days ago.
Yeah, Bobby here is the most exciting item to hit Big Tuna since the '86 cyclone sheared the roof off the high school.
You from Texas, Mr. Burrow?
I'm from all over.
I see you was in the Marines.
Bobby was a job then.
What's chow man?
How old are you?
20.
A whole lot of women and kids and old people died at Chow Ben.
You was on a ship, partner. Pretty hard to make contact with the people when you're out floating in the fucking Gulf of Tonkin.
Come on, Bobby. Have yourself another glass of Jack. Okay?
Don't mind if I fucking do. Speaking of Jack, one-eyed Jack's yearning to go a-peeping in a seafood store. All right. Nice meeting you. Adios, bullets.
See you later. Bobby's got away. Can't shake the institution over.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I got another clip here. So part of, again, what this, I was talking about with this uncanniness is that what you see is not, the image that you see creates certain evocations or associations in your mind, and that's not what they mean, or that's not how they behave in Lynch's world. So he creates an expectation, and then he subverts it. And this was famously expressed in the show Twin Peaks by when Agent Cooper has a vision, or maybe it's not a vision, maybe it really happens, where he's visited by a giant.
Owls are not what they seem. The owls are not what they seem.
Your dedication is impressive.
We could do Star Trek. I could do that too. All right. So related to this, and one way that he conveys this message of uncanniness is through the concept of duality. So think of the title of Twin Peaks, Two Mountains, Twin Peaks 2. There are several uses in the Red Room in Twin Peaks of the doppelganger, Laura's doppelganger. It's actually, I don't know how familiar you are with the show, but it's Cooper's doppelganger that escapes from the Red Room at the end of the original Twin Peaks, and then is in the preponderance of the new one. In Mulholland Drive, you have an entire hour of the film where Naomi Watts is Betty and Laura Harring is, I forget her character's name, but, and Justin Theroux is one character, and then that 1 hour, first hour was made as a TV pilot that ABC, the American network, rejected. So now he decides I'm going to make this into a movie. So he puts a whole second hour into the movie, and every one of these actors is a different character. So, so again, the concept of duality. Lost Highway, famously, and we'll get into this, I don't know if I should mention this now, but Lost Highway, the character Fred Madison, midway into the film, he's in prison, the guards go to get him, and he's completely somebody else, a different actor, different name, different everything. So this is just a common theme. I will tell you that Lost Highway, somehow, considering Lynch's reluctance to help us understand anything, somehow it is known, and I don't know how, that Lynch was inspired to make Lost Highway by watching the O.J. Simpson trial. Do you guys all know about the O.J. Simpson trial? Okay. He was astounded that, in his mind, a man who had killed his wife could act like he didn't. You know, that it was somebody else who killed his wife, who maybe looked like him and talked like him, but wasn't him. He showed absolutely no signs of remorse, and Lynch is thinking, like, how can this be? So he created in his mind, in his interpretation of that, O.J. had created in his mind this doppelganger, I should say, who had committed the murder. It was not me, it was somebody else. And that's really the explanation for Lost Highway, which I think, you know, is in a really ingenious way of communicating or conveying that theme. I don't know what this is. I think it's the same clip, and you're saying it's hyperlinked, so we should be good, right?
It's not on the screen, though.
Oh, this is Lost Highway, where the guards go to the prison cell expecting to find Fred, and instead they find Pete. The person you saw at the end was...
When I was 17, I wanted to be a gangster.
His feet. I mean, but think about that. That's just such a brilliant, ingenious way of interpreting visually this idea that he had, and I think it's really amazing. So, okay, in blue. So he'll do this. He'll do this with venues, geographies, locations. He'll do it with he could turn the Palmer House into a place of danger. So he doesn't just do it in one way. He does it with sound, with locations, with people, with owls, apparently. So here, you know, this is the scene, the beginning of Blue Velvet, where you think you're watching a sort of idyllic small town. You get all these images telling you that you're in this very beautiful Norman Rockwell-esque town, small town America, and then you suddenly see the underbelly of it, which is, again, about the duality of it, and that's kind of what that ear represents, but yeah, so we'll show this from the beginning of Blue Velvet. And also in Blue Velvet, he also does it like, and this is, he does this in a few things, but in Blue Velvet, which is set in the 80s, you'll see street scenes where you'll see cars like from the 1950s. So again, you're thinking to yourself, like, what time period are we set in? This doesn't make any sense. It's another way that he does it.
on stars. She wore blue velvet, bluer than velvet were her eyes, warmer than May her tender sighs. Love was on.
Day in Lumberton, so get those chainsaws out. This is the mighty WOOD, the musical voice of Lumberton. At the sound of the falling tree, it's 9:30. There's a whole lot of wood waiting out there, so let's get going.
Vybírám si pohodlí. Rozhodněte se zůstat aktivní a zůstat čilý, ať se děje, co se děje. Stampolníko.
That ear is Jeffrey's gateway into that underbelly that we saw represented through the underneath the grass, all those insects and so on. But you know, I know I've been beating a dead horse with uncanniness and the way it creates the sense of fear or uncertainty. But it also creates humor. I mean, Lynch's stuff is very funny, and I don't know, like you see like the dog and the baby in that scene with the, and I find myself like constantly chuckling at his stuff when I'm not like scared out of my mind. But so, you know, humor is a very important part of Lynch's work, and I don't want to, you know, overlook that. So, so here I was talking about how he does it with locations and geography. I don't know, I think that, so the Palmer House in Twin Peaks, where, I mean, we normally think of our home as a place of safety and comfort and, you know, someplace where we feel we can relax, kick back, and in the Palmer, in Twin Peaks, the Palmer House is a complete den of evil. And the diner in Mulholland Drive is another example where, and not only, so the diner, it's even the diner in daylight, it's not even nighttime, where that guy is relating his dream to the other man at the booth, and then they go in the back and see this hideous monster. And in Lost Highway, he does it at a Hollywood party, which is, you know, a party is not a place where you expect to run into Robert Blake wearing white, who was probably killed his wife, in white makeup and looking like this mystery man, and who says that he's at your house right now as he's talking to you. So it's a crowd, you know, crowds of people are supposed to, you know, I remember, you know, some people feel safer, believe it or not, in New York because they, you know, you're always surrounded by other people, so they feel like there's less chance of something happening to you. But you know, I don't have that much time, so I don't want to do a lot of more scenes, but I did want to, that's the diner scene, but yeah, I do want to show this one because it's, I mean, you know, so in Lost Highway, Lynch told Robert Blake, you decide what your character's going to look like, you figure it out, and then you show me, and this is what Robert Blake came up with. Yeah, I think one of the scariest characters in any Lynch movie.
Where was it you think we met?
At your house, don't you remember?
No, I don't. Are you sure?
Of course. As a matter of fact, I'm there right now.
So, you know, I think that's one of the most frightening scenes in any Lynch film, and I'm sitting here chuckling through the whole thing, and it reminds me that Pauline Kael, who was a very famous critic for The New Yorker, which was in America, a magazine, when she was leaving Blue Velvet, she overheard somebody say, maybe I'm sick, but I want to see that again. So anyway, I think, again, just to reiterate, there's a lot of humor in what Lynch does. So yeah, let's see what we got here. Talked about sound. He was heavily influenced by Francis Bacon, and there's, you can see visual images of the Red Room, and that's a Bacon painting. Bacon was a maverick painter who rejected the preferred artistic style of abstraction of the era in which he was creating art in favor of a distinctive and disturbing realism, known for raw, unsettling imagery. Lynch loves him. And then there's this website, which we're not going to go to, but you can check it yourself, where it has these images side by side of where Lynch might have been influenced by Bacon's work. Here's another one. And that's basically my definition of Lynchian. So what I'm stressing really is, I mean, it can mean a lot of things to people. It can mean like weirdness, strangeness, quirkiness, but to me, mostly what it represents is the idea that you are seeing things that you expect to act or sound or look one way, and they don't. They look or sound or act or sound a different way, and that is most prominently unsettling for you, but it also can be, if you're lucky, it could be funny instead of unsettling. So that to me really is the essence of what Lynchian is, and if you go back and look at his work now, I hope that you'll see that appearing over and over in terms of the use of sound, the use of set design, the use of costuming, the use of thematics, the use of visual images, and so on. So now what I'm going to do is, and by the way, don't forget that if you can explain Inland Empire to me, don't forget to do that when we're done. But anyway, now we're taking questions. So I'm supposed to put on this headset.
Já vás poprosím, pokud máte nějaké otázky, zvedněte ruku, já vám podám mikrofon, aby slyšeli dámy překladatelky a mohli to panu Bushmanovi přeložit do sluchátek. So if you have any questions you want to ask, please raise your hand, I will pass you the mic so the translators could hear. Thank you. Tak, otázky?
Here you go. Hi David, great presentation right here. Have David ever told you about his meditation? Because I know he's a big practitioner of meditation. I imagine that kind of contributes to his work. When he, somehow, I'm pretty sure, right? Has he ever opened up about contribution?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, he talks a lot about it, and sorry. You know, he's written several books in which he talks about the value of that, and I don't really, you know, I'm just kind of I did this interview, all these interviews with Mark Frost, and I just am a little skeptical of. It's got this kind of cultish ambience around it, and I have to tell you that in New York I went to one free. So this is kind of off topic here, but I went to one free demonstration of it. There's like 50 people sitting in a room, and they have this candle in the front that you're supposed to concentrate on, and then you're done and you leave. And they almost, it was almost like they were trying to sell you a car. Like they didn't want you to walk out of the building without paying for a series of. So, I try to stay away from that as much as possible, and I'm just. But he'll talk to you about it. He'll talk your ear off about it. So, and for him, it's a sign of he obviously sees a lot of darkness in the world, and it's a way for him to ground himself. I think, although we could argue about how grounded he is, but anyway, yeah.
Dobré odpoledne. Já se chci zeptat k Duně, vy jste se tady celou přednášku vyhýbal. Lynch tu Dunu považuje za svůj nejhorší film a za svoje tvůrčí selhání.
It's working now or not? It doesn't work. You should hear them.
No, I don't hear it.
And either way, it's weird. Make him smeka na hlas. No, každý.
Now I am.
Yeah, great.
Tak ještě jednou. Vy jste se po celou dobu přednášky vyhýbal jakékoliv zmínce o Duně, ale přesto se zeptám. David Lynch Dunu považuje za svůj nejhorší film a za své tvůrčí selhání. Ale přesto zapadá podle vás Duna do jeho filmografie, v jeho kontextu, je vlastně ničím výjimečná než jeho ostatní filmy, nebo naopak tam plně zapadá a je pro vás stejně znepokojující jako všechna ostatní díla?
It's a great question, and I had to decide whether to deal with Dune because there's just so much great work, and obviously the two Dune movies that came out, and Terry and I had a big conversation about it yesterday. But here's what I'll say about Dune. It is, to me, absolutely, even within a genre or a context, a universe, you expect certain things to look and act and behave certain ways. So within the conventions of science fiction, you expect things to look a certain way or behave a certain way. And you saw that scene of things being pushed back there. So I think it's Lynchian in the sense that it presents certain conventions of the science fiction genre and subverts them as well, in the same way that we've been talking about what uncanny means and what he does everywhere. So I think it is Lynchian, and I think that it's an underrated film. I like the film, and Lynch, his problem with it was the cut was taken away from him. But I think it's totally within the realm of what we're talking about. Not that it subverts real life expectations, but it subverts the expectations of the genre. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, good, thank you. Great question.
Nějaké další otázky? Any other questions?
No questions about David Lynch, huh?
What's your favorite movie and why? What's your favorite Lynch movie and why?
Say that again?
What's your favorite David Lynch movie?
What's your favorite David Lynch movie?
Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive, yeah. I would say Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway are my favorite David Lynch movies. I think, I do think that what he did with Lost Highway was just incredible. And in terms of, think about it. You get this idea about something and you turn it into that movie. It's just incredible to me. And Mulholland Drive, I think, is just a really sad, powerful movie, as I interpret it. I'd love to hear what you think is going on in Mulholland Drive. What do you think of the second half? Which is the real Mulholland Drive, the first half or the second half? Which is reality?
Well, the second half, I guess. But I read so many interpretations. I'm sticking to the sad story that it's all a dream and then she dies, or before she dies, or something like this.
Yeah, me too.
That's what I'm sticking to. Me too.
Sad movie. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody want to tell me what Inland Empire is about? And those, how about, okay, if you're not going to tell me what Inland Empire and the Rabbits are about, tell me why at the end of Fire Walk With Me, the monkey says Judy. Can anyone tell me that? Okay. What's anybody else's favorite David Lynch movie? Whose favorite movie is Mulholland Drive? Anybody? How about Eraserhead? Anybody love Eraserhead? You have my tremendous admiration because that's a tough movie. But yeah, another. All his movies are tough. Fire Walk With Me is excruciating when you think about what's happening to Laura. Just excruciating, and critics were so upset by it, and then it's just hard to watch. But at least we know what's going on. Although the big question in Twin Peaks is whether it was Leland who killed Laura. Sorry for the spoiler, or Bob. Was it a person or dad, or was it somebody who possessed her dad? Something that possessed her dad, and I think that is worthy of a lecture of its own. And the thing about Twin Peaks to remember, not so much the movie, Fire Walk With Me, but everything else, is that it's a creation of two people. So, and they don't even agree with each other. And David Lynch said he didn't even read Mark Frost's novels, which I can tell you Mark Frost was not happy about. But, when Lynch would go off, and Lynch, when he directed the last episode of the original series, he said that the script was terrible, which Mark co-wrote with two other people. He threw out the ending, which I'm sure did not please Mark Frost. And so what I'm saying is that people say, oh, this isn't canon or that's not canon, but there is no one singular canon to Twin Peaks because it's two different people and they each have their own ideas about what happened in Twin Peaks. And so you can't, I mean, David Lynch is no more valid or less valid than Mark Frost. Anybody else?
I just wanted to thank you, and when you were asking about the Inland Empire, like the story, what is interesting for me is like that almost in each of his films, like it's not so important like how spectacularly like mindfuckish they are. There is always like some place or a person when the title character like meets it or like finds this place, he always or she now knew like the true nature of her story or the true nature of her things, which somehow evaded her or him before. So that's kind of like, and each time it's originally and differently said, but it's kind of like a thing I always like about this film. So it's more like a commentary. But what is your opinion on these places and persons, which kind of like shows you what you are or what the character is all about?
So I had some trouble hearing some of that. So I don't know if I can. Maybe if you want to come closer or something, then.
Yeah, or I don't know if I should speak more into the microphone or not.
Yeah.
But just that no matter how the story is complicated or not in his films, like there is always this motive when the person, like the title character, comes somewhere and now knows like the true nature of the things which before were like traumatic for her or him, and can handle this, and it switched the narrative, and it can be like a red room, it can be like this burning cottage and the lost highway. So it's kind of like a similar motif all the time, but only in a different setting, which I always like this main story. So it's more like a
yeah. So who do you think in Twin Peaks that character is? Because in Lost Highway, I think that you're 100% right that Fred comes to the realization that the mystery man is the dark side of himself, and that is exactly what you're talking about. And I think that that's a great observation on your part. And with Leland Palmer, and I guess that's who, maybe Leland comes to the realization that he is in denial about what he's doing, and invents, in some interpretations, invents this evil cosmic entity that is doing it instead. But he, comes to the realization in the end when he starts crying. So I think that is a really good observation, and I think I'd have to go back and look at all his films now. And me, I still don't know about Inland Empire, but yeah, it's a really good observation. And now I'm going to go back and watch all his films and look for that. There was a question over here.
Yeah.
Hello, thank you. So I was a bit surprised that in your definition of Lynch, you didn't talk so much about like cinematographic grammar, and also like one thing that for me defines Lynch is like the use of different materials in his movie. I don't know, like Eraserhead is the main example of that, like creating real, I don't know how to explain it, but there are so many different matters in Eraserhead, like the liquids and prosthetics, and like that you almost can feel, I don't know, no? Well,
no, so you're saying that well, I'm not sure what you mean by matters,
yes,
but
I don't know the English word.
That it's a haptic, almost haptic experience. You know, you can touch
sensible.
It almost.
Oh, tactile.
Tactile. Yeah, thank you. That's the word.
Yeah. So sensuality.
Yeah.
Flesh fluids as well.
Yeah.
And just like this, and also he has like a bunch of things to his grammar. I think like the fades, a lot of fades in and stuff like that. So do you think it's not relevant in the definition of Lynchian?
Grammar. grammar. Tell me what you mean by that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm from
Když
France.
tak se mluvá česky, dáme mu to přeloží.
I'm from...
Sorry. So yeah, the English is only option.
Like,
sorry, we don't have French translators.
We say cinematographic grammar, which is...
Vocabulary.
Cinematic. Cinematic or vocal?
Here I want
vocabulary.
to use...
The words or the cinema vocabulary?
Language. His language of cinema.
Language of the image.
Yeah.
Like using a fade in here instead of cut or close up and stuff.
Right.
Like the choices.
Well, so I did talk a little bit about that, and I do think it's relevant. I think that he holds the close-ups. I think he uses extreme close-ups a lot, and I think that he holds on them longer than most people would, or that you would expect. But I think for the most part, with respect to that, if I'm understanding correctly, that's all about, again, one subverting expectation. Like you're going, you expect it to end earlier than it does, and it doesn't. I think too, it's like if you think of some of the scenes of Sarah Palmer. Are you familiar with Twin Peaks?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so there are scenes where there's a lot of exaggeration, I think, in his films, but again, I think it's all about creating, I hope I'm answering the question, but I think it's all about creating, what was the word that they used, like an altered reality, or what was the word, I forget the term that they used, but it's like reality through a cracked mirror. What you see is everything is a little bit. It's like in horror movies they use canted angles because they're trying to discombobulate you. So I think that he does that almost everything that he does in terms of both cinema, both visually and thematically, and words we'll talk about in a second, but is about disorienting you and subverting your expectation. And in terms of, and he also heightened realities, creating a universe that is, in many ways, looks and feels familiar to ours, but then he subverts it so that we have expectations that are then subverted. And in terms of language, he does care a lot about language because you see in the Red Room, everyone is talking backward. But there's also a lot of, and I think again that's about just creating this world that's unfamiliar to us. But there's also, to me, I think a lot of silence in his films. Like if you saw that clip that we showed from Wild at Heart with William Dafoe and Laura Dern and Nicolas Cage. I mean, this guy's acting like really weird and strange, and they don't say anything. And there's a lot of times where you expect people to react like, like what is going on here? And they just don't say anything, and you don't really know what's going on. And so, to me, that sort of creates. First of all, I think we have to think. Like what are these people thinking? I think it's not explained to us because I think life is not explained to us. So again, it goes back to his mystery. So I think that grammar and sound is important to him, but I also think silence is really important to him. I can only think of any David Lynche scenes that were like long speeches or anything like that. But he also made a short called The Alphabet, which is also very much about his fascination with language and sound. Good question.
Já se moc omlouvám, ale to je všechno, na co máme čas. I'm so sorry, but our time is up. So I will ask you to thank David very much.
Thank you, everybody. I'll say the same thing that I've said at every presentation I've done, and that's that in America, a lot of people are foregoing theater
because of streaming. They're just not leaving. They'd rather sit at home and read their phones and like go into the kitchen and get a snack, and they're not going to the theater anymore. And to see so many of these events that I've been at so packed, so packed and full of people with the intellectual curiosity that you all have is just very inspiring to me. And so thank you. That's what I'm saying. And thank you here at the festival as well. Thank you. Thanks.